Thank you very much, Media General, for this all-important discussion. 2 days ago, I put up a post on Facebook, and the post said, there are hundreds of undeveloped Hudson-Odois, untapped talents, wasting away across Ghana. And even though this was not political, I did not blame any political party. Quite a number of people said, well, why do you always want to blame the government for the problems of this country? Is it the government's responsibility to develop those talents? Those people may not have heard or read that in 2016, the government of China outdoored a strategy. And this strategy was to ensure that by 2050, China becomes a powerhouse in football. And so if the government of China would want to take steps to make the game popular, and as part of that strategy, it said that by 2020, about 50 million people, young and old, should be playing the game. Why should it be different when it comes to Ghana? And I think a champion's quote, which Prof read, if a champion had been alive today to read Lee Kuan Yew's From Third World to First World and realized how leadership could change a very hopeless country or island of a sort into one of the most prosperous places on earth, he might want to revise what he said at the time. Corruption and abuse of power in government, whose duty is it to fix it? Let me start with a number of questions. If there is corruption in TV3 here, where we are holding this program, whose duty would it be to fix the corruption in TV3? Would it be the cleaners or the security guards or the reporters or the management of TV3 headed by the CEO? If there's corruption at Vodafone Ghana or if there's corruption at MTN Ghana, whose duty will it be to fix that corruption and abuse of power in those private entities? We all know whose duty it is to fix it. So when it comes to the Republic of Ghana and we have corruption and the abuse of power in government, the question is, whose duty is it to fix it? You cannot define corruption without leaving out the abuse of power. And so, if you don't have the power, you cannot abuse it. It is easy to say all Ghanaians are corrupt. And I once had a cause or reason to tell somebody that if you are corrupt, say that. But don't roast your money and then stuff it in the mouth of those farmers in, let's say, Bunkurugu or a certain village in the eastern region who don't have water, who don't have electricity, who don't have anything. And the only time they are remembered is when it is time to vote. I agree to some extent that quite a number of people are partakers and victims of corruption. Quite a number of people. But when it comes to fighting it, I would say it is the responsibility of the government. And there are two main forms of corruption. We have the petty corruption and we have the grand corruption. And both petty and grand corruptions are a result of a deficit in leadership. Today, if you go, for instance, to the DVLA, you can have your services rendered so quickly and you leave. But in those days, when you'd have to go and queue and spend days to register a vehicle, you would be compelled to pay a bribe. So if certain steps are taken at the level of leadership, we are going to have corruption. What necessitates is it wouldn't be there in the first place for us to even want to say we are going to fight it. Now, I would want to talk about the corruption, abuse of power in government. And in this case, I'm talking about grant corruption. And this grant corruption in this country manifests itself in the way of procurement. If you take procurement out, there would not be grant corruption because almost every entity uses procurement as a way of perpetuating grant corruption. So if you ask me, whose duty is it to fix it? It is the duty of the government of Ghana, headed by the President of the Republic of Ghana, and currently that responsibility falls on one person, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who in 2016 came begging us to give him the opportunity to fix it. I was here, I was a journalist, and we covered it. I remember I even wrote an article saying, tell us what you have to do and stop begging. The next time I saw his statement saying that he would continue to beg because power belongs to Ghanaians. And that begging for power was not to tell us when to sleep or what to eat, but how to fix the country. The president and the government do not do this alone. They are supposed to do it through state institutions and agencies that they have the power over. We have the IOCO, we have the Office of the Special Prosecutor, we have SHRAJ, we have the Auditor General, and the security services and agencies. So the president doesn't need to be everywhere. He doesn't need to do everything on his own, but he can achieve this through these state institutions and state officials. We cannot fight corruption through the bottom-up approach. There may be certain things or problems that can be solved or resolved in that way. But when or if there is corruption in, let's say, TV3 here, and it's so endemic, you don't come to ask the cleaners, you don't ask the reporters, you don't ask the security guards to lead this fight. They may be in the majority, but their influence cannot curb corruption in this house. It has to take the CEO and management to institute policies and ensure that those policies are adhered to. And when I say the government and the president must fix corruption and abuse of power in the country, I'm not saying we should all fold our arms and then wait and blame them alone. But I've done investigative reporting for the past 10 years, and I can say that a lot of people are doing their part. But sometimes they get so discouraged when it gets to the point that the government has to act and it fails to act. Let me give you this example. In 2019, the Financial Forensic Unit of the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service submitted a docket to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice in this country. This docket contained evidence that more than 200 million Ghana cedis was paid to some companies to do some fumigation that was not done. And that was not all. There were already a number of contracts to do fumigations across the country. I had gone around the country, 53 municipal, metropolitan and district assemblies in the country, in all the 10 regions at the time, and gathered evidence. The police CID also traveled across the country and gathered evidence. They took statements, tried to get contracts which the people paying the money didn't even have copies of those contracts. No single official of the Ministry of Local Government could attest to the fact that work was done. They couldn't get a single official who supervised the work. But we paid over 200 million Ghana cedis. And so there was supposed to be prosecution. And that prosecution was never done. Nobody has been taken to court. And I'm talking about the Zoom Lion companies, and the minister at the time was Collins Dowda. So the question is, whose fault is it that nothing was done? The whistleblower who brought this to the attention of the journalist did his part. The journalist did his part by going around to investigate. The police CID did their part, and if there's any government official who tells me that that docket is not strong enough for prosecution, I'll call that person a liar, and there's a lot of evidence because I worked with the police CID even after my investigation, so I know what is contained in that document, and I've stated before that a first-year law student who understands the case can get conviction. So why is the government not acting? So everybody in the chain has done his or her part, but we are left with the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice to also act because they have the power to prosecute corruption cases. We may want to blame the Attorney General, but it may go beyond that. And I'm saying this because in 2017, the Ghana Integrity Initiative criticized President Akufo-Addo, who had gone to the Jospon group of companies to praise these people. That you are doing so well, keep it up. And at the time, the Ghana Integrity Initiative said that, look, these companies are being investigated for corruption. So if you go and you are praising them, urging them to keep it up, then your subordinates wouldn't have the strength to prosecute them. And so from 2019 till date, when that docket is still gathering dust, I am not surprised because at the very top, there hasn't been that support. We can also look at it in a different way. Beyond the executive, there are also other independent or supposedly independent state institutions that are supposed to act. What support do they get? Yes. Beyond the executive arm of government, there are also independent or supposedly independent state institutions or officials that are supposed to act to fight corruption. We have the police, we have IOCO, we have the Auditor General, the Audit Service, and others. The question is, what kind of support do they get if they want to do their work without fear or favor? We know the fate of Daniel Yaudomelevo, who has been, in the view of many Ghanaians, perhaps except the president and the presidency, the most effective Auditor General in the history of this country. He was targeted and hounded out of office. And the judiciary of this country was the accomplice in getting the Daniel Yaudomelevo, the Auditor General, out of office. I have written extensively about the role of the judiciary, and it is one of the lowest points, in my view, in the fight against corruption in this country. So, if we are to defeat corruption, then we may need the power of the state. For us Ghanaians, as they often say, ordinary Ghanaians, with the mere mortals, ours is to mount the pressure. And what Fix the Country movement is doing is very commendable. But it must go beyond the few contractors or activists, so that when something happens, you find on social media, why is this group quiet? Why is this person not talking? Why is that person not talking? But we can all talk. I remember when the lockdown was about to begin, social media was awash with curses. We're cursing market women because they had inflated prices, some to the extent of increasing the prices by 100%. So if an olonka of Gary was 10 cedis, because there was a lockdown and there was a lot of demand, they started selling it at 20 cedis. We're all angry and cursing. But why don't we also get angry and curse when contracts that are awarded with our monies are so much inflated? In a Robin the Assembly's documentary in 2017, for instance, there was something I discovered which did not get the support of the general public. We were supposed to procure waste bins, a $74 million contract, and as part of that, we were supposed to procure 900,000 bin liners. Those polythene or rubbers we put in refuse bins so that it doesn't get sticky. When I was doing the investigation, I realized that this company that was supplying, one of the Jospon companies, it was selling a piece to the general public at 98 pesewas, less than 1 cedi, and I was buying 500 pieces. But to the government of Ghana, it was selling a piece at 67 Ghana cedis. So that contract that should have been less than 900,000 or 1 million cedis was 63 million Ghana cedis. But to the general public, this was a bicycle. A bicycle and Sika. So nobody seemed to care. So we will never get angels to lead us in this country. But if the citizens who vote the politicians into office will decide to keep quiet, then nothing will ever get done. And for those who still think that the government led by the president cannot defeat corruption, I have a simple solution in the how to do it. We saw a video of the Malawian president who sacked his minister for undertaking some travels with COVID-19 funds. The minister returned the funds, but he was sacked. And he said nobody would escape punishment. That is how it is done. If a minister of states is being prosecuted for corruption, the chief director wouldn't need any sermon, and those under the chief director wouldn't need any sermons. So if we are to fix Ghana, we all have a role to play, but the government, led by the president, must begin to show leadership. If theirs was not important, then there wouldn't be the need to even vote at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.